So welcome back, everyone, to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here for today. For today on the show, what can I say? Yeah, I am already having the highlight of the week by far because she's back. The incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary, the one and only, a superhero by far, of course. The incredible Laura. Laura, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Always appreciate the awesome intros. So that's great.
Absolutely. What better way to have an incredible, super badass Wednesday than to be chatting again with someone as badass as you? You know what I mean?
I'm here. I'm ready for it. Let's. This is gonna be great. So yeah.
There you go. Epic. It's like Christmas here already, and we are in March. So I love it. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
if you are new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. But also, on the description below, you're gonna find all of Laura's social media. By this point, you should know why she's super badass. Case or not, the good thing is that every time she's been here, she just keep raising the bar. So we're good here. Now, without further ado, let's jump in. So, you've been on the show multiple times. We've been talking about, your career, a little bit about how the acting industry might impact in the next 10 years, with a whole round table. But, for today, I have a couple of questions regarding kind of the same transitionings that has been going on, with the acting industry. Also, how the actors craft have improved somehow, things like that. That being said, I will start with the first question, which is, how have acting techniques changed over the years, and do you think today's actresses approach the craft differently than those from previous generations?
That's a great question to start us off with. So thank you for that one. I I think it's hard for me to comment too much on it, only because I've only been acting for, I guess, about the past 10 years of my life. So I don't know all of the techniques that they were using for years and years, but I think some of the biggest changes, at least with acting, especially from the standpoint of auditioning, has changed a lot, where you people used to go in the room a lot and audition and actually meet the casting directors, and you would get feedback in person, versus now a lot of it you're doing on your own with self tapes. So you're kind of approaching it either, just working it on your own or with a coach or with another actor. So I think a lot of the ownership has transitioned onto the actor's shoulders of having to figure out, how do you want to play this and how do you want to approach it. And even being on Zoom, it's a different, auditioning over Zoom is so different from in person too. So I think some of what's changed is that the audition process now is so much more within the actor's scope, and up to them to kind of decide what they want to do and how they want to approach things. And I think also what we're noticing a lot of in the films and movies that we're watching, or things are so much tighter. There's a lot more close-ups and a lot more focus just on the face than, before. They used to do a lot, like keep the frame a lot wider. So I think it almost makes it more intimate with all the acting that's happening. But yeah, I think those are some of the biggest observations that I've noticed that have
Mm-hmm.
changed.
Okay. And, has the rise of streaming platforms and new storytelling, like the whole format to it, has changed on how actresses might prepare for roles too?
Yeah, I think with streaming, it's different how people consume media now, right? With a show, a lot of times they'll drop the whole season at once, right? And people will have a chance to watch it, versus before, I think as you were working on a show, you knew they were only getting one episode at a time. So in ways, I think it's harder to grab an audience's attention now, because there's so much media and so many shows out there that they can pick whatever they want to watch, versus it used to just be, okay, if you're on a show, you've made it, you've got your time slot, they picked up the pilot. You know that a lot of people are going to watch the show because it's going to be what's airing on cable if you get a good time slot. So I think now, just because there is so much more content out there, it is a little bit more challenging to make your show stand out. So I think the bar has raised for everybody across the board. It's more competitive. So everybody kind of has to step up their game, I guess.
Totally. Yeah, it's I have discovered, through time that either you adjust to the changes or you're gonna left behind, but at the same time life will continue moving forward. And if you're left behind, when you want to again be like on the same thing, it's gonna take you a while for it. So it's better for you just kind of
Mhm.
get along with the changes and just try to adjust the best way as you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to get on board or you're left behind, basically.
Yeah. And how have expectation for actresses shifted in terms of types of roles they are offered? Do you think that female characters finally are becoming like a little bit more complex?
I think yes. I think we are seeing the trend moving in a positive way. I think we are seeing more complex and more dynamic characters. I'm a big fan of Ellen Pompeo. I'm hoping I'm saying her last name right, but Ellen Pompeo from Grey's Anatomy. She, I think, really has. She talks a lot about women in film and television and just the roles that they get opportunities to play. And even she was saying as she was starting to do Grey's Anatomy, she was like, "Great, I got a show. This is probably all I'll ever be able to do because by the time I'm done, I'll be in my 40s or my 50s, and then." That'll be it, right? Like I'll be kind of washed up as an actress. Versus we don't see that same trend for men, right? Like men keep on going for however long they want, right? There's different expectations set on women. So I think we are seeing things move in a positive light. We are seeing a lot more roles and opportunities for women, especially as they mature, which is really great to see. But I think we're only starting to scrape the surface. So there's still a long ways that we need to go to get to where we need to be. But I think, yeah, there are more opportunities. And even as a society, we're getting more comfortable with people not necessarily having to be perfect to play whatever role that they want to play and just like having people come as they are, which I think is very important. So, yeah, I would say we're seeing some shifts, but we're not quite there yet. We're moving in the right direction though, so that's good.
And how has the industry's perception of age, beauty and femininity evolved when it comes to casting actresses?
Yeah, I guess I was touching a little bit on that, but I think it's like I said, it's moving in the right direction, but there still is a certain expectation to have a certain beauty standard and in a lot of shows that even in a lot of the things that we see that are coming across, that does play a part and a lot of descriptions even for things that come out with auditions, they'll be like, I'm pretty and thin and whatever, and that's still is a very big part of the industry. I think we're getting more comfortable with that. We are starting to see more diversity in body types, in ethnicity, and race, and all of those things. But again, I feel we're making progress, but we're not quite there yet. So as long as we keep moving in the right direction, I think that's what's most important for right now.
Okay, I like it. And do you think that social media and digital culture have influenced the way actresses approach their careers now?
Yeah, I think social media, we're seeing it play more and more of a role than it ever really has before. Especially, I feel with TikTok, the rise of that, I think, has changed things a lot. And we're seeing people that are influencers or that are TikTok famous transitioning into film and TV. And I think that that's a new world that everybody is learning to navigate. Even with myself, with I have a show coming out later this year, and I'm learning how to navigate and starting to understand, okay, what are my expectations on social media going to be? How do I navigate that world? And I think it's something new because 10 years ago that didn't really exist and it didn't matter. But now we are seeing actors that are getting opportunities purely because I don't want to say purely, but are getting opportunities presented to them because of their social media following, right? So it's a new world. The lines are kind of being blurred. We're starting to see more of those influencers come in, and we're also seeing a lot of actors then becoming using their social media platforms a lot more than they have before having a successful show or successful movie. So it's something that I think is constantly evolving, and that again, same way with everything else that we're saying, you kind of have to jump on the bandwagon or get left behind, right? So
Hmm.
it seems to be the trend.
Yeah, I have seen that they are kind of using it, like some actors, of course, are using it to kind of a tool as well to kind of keep themselves present, like what's the word here that I'm looking for? That they're still, I just forgot it. Unbelievable. Um, relevant. Yeah, that is still
Yes.
relevant, that they are still out there, and
Mm.
it also shows you how much this whole transition has become, that instead of actually be a social app for you to connect with your friends, things like that, it has transformed as well into a business in which you can promote what you do, you can show it out there, the type of things that you do, and especially for actors, you can, at the same time stay, as I was saying before, relevant, but also show out there the type of skills that you have on your social media, right? So
Yeah, and I think it's even become a connecting point between people within the industry too, right? I'll follow different directors or producers or other actors that I've worked with, and then you'll start to see what other projects that they're working on, and they'll see the future things that you're working on. So it has become not just for the general public, but also within the industry, I find a way for people to stay connected too.
totally, totally. And with more female directors and writers in the industry, how do you see the roles of actresses evolving in the upcoming years?
I think that is so important. I really think not only do we need more female directors, but just more females in any like crew positions and all over being on set. I personally love working with female directors. I was fortunate to work with one female director, Roxanne, on the first lead I did for a Lifetime movie, and it was just such a different and unique experience because I hadn't worked with many female directors prior to that. And it's interesting. You see a different viewpoint and perspective, and also there, I don't know, there's just something about, especially if you're dealing with topics that are more based on the female experience. It's hard if a male is directing you because they don't have that same experience. They don't know how to direct certain things because they just haven't lived it, right? So I think it's really nice, and I think it's something that's important, and again, something that we're starting to see more of. I definitely think we need more stories written by women, more stories directed by women, and then that will also make the actors and a lot of the crew more comfortable too when dealing especially with those types of stories. So I think we're starting to see it, but we need more of that push. We need more female female directors out there for sure. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully working with more women in the future.
And to finish this first topic, let's say, what
Mhm.
advice would you give to the next generation of actresses looking to build their career today?
Yeah, I think what I would say, and some advice that I would love to have been told when I was first starting out, is especially as a female, you don't have to be perfect. And I think it can be so hard to want to, just want to be the best and want to look the best and want to be the smartest and all of these things that we're told we need to do to be successful as an actress, and rather focus on, hey, this is my craft, this is what I have to share, and this is what I want to show to the world. And it may be imperfect right now, but that's actually beautiful, and that's what people want to see. And kind of gone are the days of everybody wanting to see, okay, the exact same person on screen, the exact same perfect human being, right? We want to watch real stories of real people that we can identify with, that do have flaws and are imperfect. So I think my advice would just be, if you're passionate about this and this is something that you want to do, go for it. And don't let your imperfections hold you back.
Every time you're here on the show, I keep saying you just keep raising the bar on how epic you are. I love it. I love it. And moving to the next topic.
Trying.
Well, you're making it happen, so keep at it. And moving here to the next topic, which is a little bit about what happened, what usually happened behind the set and all of that, right? So starting with that, the first question as well. What's something about working on a film or a TV set that people outside the industry might not realize?
I think that outside the industry, people sometimes don't realize how much work and effort actually goes into making a project. I think even sometimes when talking to people about being an actor, they just think, oh, well, you just memorize your lines and then you're good to go, right? And I'm thinking, no, there's a lot more that I got to do. Memorizing my lines, honestly, is probably the least of my worries, to be honest. There's so much work, and there's also so many moving parts, especially when you get to working on something on a larger scale. I don't know if you've watched this or if you heard about this, but Adolescence that just came out on Netflix is
Hmm.
have you heard of it yet?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's I recently watched it, and every episode is filmed in one take, which is insane. An hour-long episode filmed in one take. No cuts, no nothing, no different coverage. So I've been watching a lot of interviews on the intricacies of how they filmed that and all the rehearsal and the setup and everything that went behind getting, be like weeks and weeks of prep just to get, this one day where they do two takes a day or something like that. And I think that people watch it and they're like, oh, okay, like that's cool, but they don't realize how much effort and work goes in behind it. And I think that's something that I've noticed even on the projects that I've worked on is you don't realize how long the costume designers and all the people behind the scenes working on everything, and yes, the actors and the directors and all of that. So I think just the effort that goes into making something is sometimes overlooked, especially because we consume so much media and it's just all there for us. So that's something I would like if people could appreciate more for sure.
Hmm. Have you ever had like a day on set that completely changed your view on the industry, basically?
I don't know if I've had one specific day. I think that there have been a few experiences that have really impacted me. One was working on this show called Painkiller, which was a limited series. That experience was very impactful for me because the show was based on a lot of people's real life lived experiences, and I hadn't worked on something so dark and also so real based on what people have lived through. And my character from that show was based on a teenager that had a good life, everything was going well, and then gets an injury, and following the advice of doctors ends up becoming hooked on oxy. And it's a very very real story to the early 2000s, right, of what a lot of people went through. And that was just one of many of the stories in the limited series. But I think that experience was really challenging and difficult, but also rewarding as an artist, because just being able to talk to different people and the director and seeing how the other actors worked on set. And yeah, it was also nice because we got to improvise a lot and kind of just go with what our instincts were and what we were feeling in the moment, which was really cool, and also changed how I work now as an actor because it's made me more flexible and more willing to follow my impulses. So that definitely was an impactful experience for sure.
Hmm. And how important is a relationship between actors and crew? Do you feel actors are, yeah, get enough recognition for the collaboration required to bring a project to life?
I think that the relationship is very important. I don't know. Honestly, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with a lot of wonderful actors and directors and crew. I can't even say that I've had an experience where I'm like, I wouldn't go back to that set. I've been lucky and worked with some really great people. And I think that it is important. I think that just developing a friendship with the actors that you work with is really helpful, and it makes it easier to play and to trust each other in the moment. Everybody works differently, but for me, I find that that's something that's really helpful and important. And I also think that crew doesn't always get as much recognition as they deserve because they're the ones there at the beginning of the day before we arrive, especially like, for example, like just even the hair and makeup team. They've got to be there before the first actor gets there, and they're there until after the last person leaves, right? So where I might be going in, maybe I've got a 12-hour day and I'm like, that's a really long day. Maybe they've had a 16-hour day. And that's like across the board for so many of the crew members. So I think they don't get all the recognition that they deserve, and they really are a big part of helping to bring the story to life, right? If they're not on top of their thing, then I can't do my job, and vice versa, right? So everybody has to work together as a cohesive unit. But yes, I've made some wonderful friends from being on set, and I wouldn't have been able to do some of the performances without them. So very grateful.
Hmm. Hmm. And what's the most physical or emotional demanding scene you ever filmed, and how did you get through to it?
Hmm. The most physical or demanding. I would say a cross between the stuff I did on Painkiller was very um just challenging in terms of putting myself into a new headspace. I was, playing a character that overdosed on drugs, and I'd never experienced something like that, fortunately, in my real life. So I had to do a lot of research and dive into a different headspace in a different world than I'm used to. But again, we had just for example, like lovely props people that helped me figure out, okay, how am I going to use this? How do I snort this at this certain time and all of that kind of stuff. So they were very helpful. And then most recently, I actually just worked on a short film that dived into, I don't know how much I can totally say about everything that it entails at the moment, but definitely dived into some very dark places. The character is she's recently lost her or she's been in an accident and her mom is in the hospital and she's raising her brother. So she's got a lot going on. She's trying to go through university and dealing with this guilt and trying to raise her brother, and there were definitely some dark emotional places to go to. And I think for me, what I find helpful is I just kind of go into my zone, into my headspace, and have whatever thoughts I need to. I'll listen to music, kind of disconnect and get into the world that I need to live in to approach those scenes for sure.
Hmm. And tell me, like, how you protect your emotions, right? So when you're about to perform this type of a tough, rough scenes, that you haven't experienced, how
Mhm.
you protect your emotions and not let those things kind of somehow affect you because it can happen, right? So how you put that barrier, let's say.
Yeah, I think, in the moment when you're in the middle of filming, for me, it can be hard to disconnect. Like I sometimes might be in that world for a few hours afterwards. But I think once I've finished a project, so once we've kind of wrapped on that and I'm moving on from that, it's really important for me to disconnect and to relax a little bit. So spending time with my friends and family is super important, and also just taking some time away from working on anything. So finding some time to read and be in nature and all of those kind of normal life things are especially important to me. But I also live within the safety of knowing that when I'm on set, that is an imaginary world and that's a playground for me and a place to work and play. And then when I go home and when I'm back to my regular life, I can leave that behind because that's in that space, and now I'm back to me. I just find it's when I spend that time like with my friends and family and disconnect, it helps me get back to my regular world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, it's understandable, right? We're humans, and no matter how, I mean, in this case, that you're gonna play something that you know that is not real, right? That it's on a safe
Mhm.
environment, your body can't tell really the difference, right? So it's understandable that if you at the same time don't take care of yourself somehow, it might impact you not only professionally but also personally. And I think that what that happens is when things might get bad. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but that's why it's so important to have a good support system, right? So that when you do leave that space, you are okay. Now I'm somewhere safe. I can regulate my body and all of that.
There you go. Love it. Now, some days on set, can be exhausting. So, what keeps you going through long hours and multiple takes?
Lots of coffee. I'm definitely I will drink coffee. Don't tell, any medical professionals, but I'll drink coffee like it's going out of style. That definitely keeps me energized and keeps me wired, especially if I'm doing night shoots. I worked on one project that was basically all night shoots. So changing my sleeping routine was a little bit challenging, and coffee helped to keep me up. I also find that, sometimes if I do have a long stretch in between, like say I'm not in the next scene and they've got a couple hours before I'm going to be on, I'll go back to my trailer and have a nap. I have no shame doing any of that. So if I need to, I'll do something such as that. And then honestly, I find just talking to a lot of the different actors and crew on sets, it's like going to summer camp, right? You're hanging out with them and you're having a good time. The show I worked in on over the summer, I was with a lot of the same people for several months. So we just got to know each other, and they were, my friends and my family while we were shooting especially. So spending time with them, it made the day go by faster, and we would run our lines in between and do whatever we needed to do. So I think just, yeah, finding ways to, if you need to have a nap, have a nap. If you need some coffee, and then otherwise you'll always find someone to have a good chat with on set. So that
There
helps
you go.
too.
Okay. Tell me how you drink your coffee.
If I'm on set, usually it'll be black. Sometimes I'll have almond milk with it because dairy is not my best friend. So just coffee with almond milk or black if I'm on set sometimes because that just keeps me wired.
Black, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. I like it. That's stuff.
What about you?
Um,
What's your coffee order?
I usually drink tea.
Okay.
There was a time in which I
Yeah.
drank lots of coffee, but the problem is that I'm a very hyperactive person. You know, like I can remain still. Like for example, even though that we're doing this, I'm having like my either my cell phone or my lighter and just keep like spinning it around, or like with this something I need to keep myself active. So
Yeah.
there was a time in which I was drinking a lot of coffee, and I that was bad because I was running and then jumping and then like what else we can do, and then it was just I was unstoppable. So then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just cool it off for a bit because I don't think it's a good idea. So I just instead switched to tea, and it's kind of more relaxed. But not gonna lie, every now and then, whenever I know that I need to be like on 100th, I'm like, okay, let's switch it to 1,000 instead, and I will just drink coffee, which is black too.
Yeah. So maybe if you were on set, you would for a long night shoot, you'd have some coffee. It might be in the routine.
For sure, yeah, but for sure, yeah, you will see me drinking coffee, and then you will see me, and then you will not, then you will see me again, then you will not, because I will be just like everywhere, you know. So,
Yeah,
so yeah,
I love
that's
it.
cool. That's cool. And after a project wraps, do you find it easy to move on, or do you carry a bit of that experience with you?
I think I carry some of it with me. I also find from every project that I've worked on, I learn something about myself too, which is really exciting and motivates me, and I'm always excited to work on the next thing. But I think especially because you work on something and you film it and then you have this time in between where it's not released and it's kind of like this secret thing that you've done that nobody else knows about. So I think there's that time in between where you still think about it and it's on your mind, but then it's almost you relive a portion of that experience when it's released too, which is really cool. So I think I do carry some of it with me for sure, but I'm always excited and motivated and looking forward to, okay, now that I've done this, what's the next character and the next mind that I get to dive into? I think that's always exciting to look forward to.
And at the same time, do you carry, I mean, if you get the chance, will you carry something about your character, like, I don't know, a pair of shoes that your character wore, or a jacket, or something to it, or not really?
Sometimes they let you take a thing or two from set. Um, yeah, once in a while. It depends. It depends on the set. It depends on what you're working on. I also find sometimes with TV they're a little bit more they hold those possessions a little bit closer to their heart because they're like, well, if there's a next season or whatever, they want to keep some of the stuff. So sometimes you'll get to take something. I don't want to admit to anything that I have in case in case anybody comes back towards me. So, but
Okay.
I have a few things. I have a few.
Just the way that it is, I totally get it. I will do, I will do it, and sometimes we can see that even for A-list actors that they would publicly admit, like, yeah, I took from them this thing or that thing from my character, just the way it is. And that's kind
Yeah.
of understandable because it also shows you kind of that at the same time how much the actor really cared about that character, right? That how much was special that those moments in which they were creating that, right? So, if I ever become a director and I realize that some of the actors that I hire they actually took things from the set, I'd be like, go for it. I wouldn't have a problem. I'd be like, yeah, it's
Good, good.
you
You'll be a
know,
good director then.
totally,
I
totally.
like it.
And usually, when well, so between takes here and there, do you usually like listen to music to it? Is there like a favorite playlist you currently listen on? So my question here would be like, what would be right now your top five or favorite songs at this point?
Ooh, my top five favorite songs. I am really into Tate McRae's new album right now. I have been listening to all of her songs, and she's Canadian, so I love that too. I think, though, in terms of what I listen to when I'm prepping for a scene, really will depend on the emotional state of my character. So, if I usually will listen to music if I'm doing something that's a little bit darker or more of a sad scene or something like that, then I'll usually listen to music and kind of disassociate while I'm going through my thoughts and to think through whatever it is that I'm looking for. But if it's more of a lighthearted or more excited scene or something along those terms, then I'll actually usually just be like chatting with the cast or whoever's around me just to kind of keep that energy up and be in the environment. I really like to when I'm going into my scenes just before we start rolling to be in whatever headspace my character is in. So if I'm excited and bubbly and chatting with everybody, then I'm going to be doing that. If I'm, if it's like I said, if it's a darker scene or something, then I'm going to kind of go into my own world and get into whatever headspace I need to be. But I find music can be really helpful because I'm sure we've all experienced this. You're even just walking down the street and you're listening to a song and something else comes on and it changes your mood, right? So I think that music can be a very powerful tool. And sometimes I'll make certain playlists based on the characters that I'm playing. But it really just depends. It depends on their world and where their headspace is at going into the scene.
Mm. What's that song that the real you wouldn't listen, but during this process of character creation or while you were getting into mood, let's say before shooting a scene, you listened to that song, but the real you wouldn't listen to it at all?
I did play one character. It's been a little while, but that was into heavy metal. So I was listening to some songs within that genre, but I don't even remember exact names because I was kind of just like, okay, I need to find stuff that's in their world. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot that I think, to be honest, normally I will listen to songs that I am a fan of or that I just find connect me to that emotion, even if it wouldn't necessarily be something that that specific character would listen to. It's more so about the emotional state that it puts me in. I find that more helpful than anything.
Okay, okay. And what's that song? Yeah, what's that song that could describe more about you? For those who haven't got the pleasure to speak with you or to actually, meet you in real life and anything, what song could actually talk a little bit about your personality, let's say?
Ooh, that is a tough question. What song could be about my personality? Maybe some type of a country song. Maybe something in the Shania Twain world is kind of where I'm thinking. Like maybe something along that lines. I like that she has some fun, upbeat music, and I've been listening to her since I was, oh my gosh, I think like literally as young as I could talk. I've been listening to her music. So maybe something along there. I find she has a lot of fun ones. Um, I don't know what would be the exact song that would describe. That's a lot of pressure to put on one specific song, to be honest. But maybe something in the Shania Twain world. I think that's where I'll lean towards.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. And my last question, so we can all enjoy and relax after an epic chat here.
Yes.
And I think you see this one coming, but let's see. Let's see. What do
Okay.
you think? What do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
The best title for this episode. You probably did ask me this last time too, but I didn't see this one coming. The best title for this episode. Uh, Looking forward to a hopeful future. That's where I want to leave it because I feel we talked a lot
Okay.
about the future and where we kind of see the industry going. So I think I see things moving in a positive light. So something along that line.
There you go. Sounds like a franchise, I like it. I like it. And at the end, what can I say?
Copyright it now.
I'm gonna do it. At the end, what can I say? The fact that you're doing what makes you happy. I still love the fact that you are keep pursuing this passion you have. It's impressive. It's really cool. Not gonna lie. Whenever I will have those days in which I question myself, like, what the hell am I doing with my life? It just takes a couple of seconds before I start to see either you or other people that I follow that I have speaking before, to see them how they are keep working, they are keep pursuing what that they keep going after. That is pretty, that is really cool because it also shows us that sure, you can bring cool characters and cool roles and all of that, but between the lines you're showing that everything's possible. And I think this message of hope and positivity, it's something super important, especially right now in this crazy era that suddenly we are hating each other more than we ever thought. the fact that we can rely on people like you who are showing something positive to it, that's badass. And that's why I just keep saying you're badass, and even a superhero status, because you're just showing how things are getting done. That's pretty cool.
Well, thank you, and thank you for hosting this and keeping everybody inspired and motivated. Especially you've been maintaining this through the last few years, which have been crazy within the industry, and like you said, even within the world. So thank you for having me and for keeping this motivation going. And yeah, I'm excited to see where the future of the industry goes. I'm excited for my own career. I feel I've got some exciting stuff coming up. So yeah, I'm just overall excited and motivated for where things go for the future.
Totally. And that's gonna happen. One day when I see you getting either multiple Emmys and multiple Oscars, I'll be like, I knew it. Wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, come on. When people say if people say like, oh, that was like overnight success, I'd be like, no, but I already knew this, so come on. What else would you get?
It's never overnight success. They always say that, but I feel it never really is.
Totally. So again, Laura, thank you for making this happen. I do want to thank also those who stayed the whole episode. Let us know what you think in the comments below. But also, on the description, you're going to find all of Laura's social media. Let's follow her. Let's share some love. As I said, by this point, you should probably find out why she's super badass. And again, thank you for making this happen. Keep shining. Keep doing what you do. Keep kicking ass. And I'll definitely be seeing you in the next one. All right.